Today, I acknowledge that Strathcona County is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Regions 2 and 4. Strathcona County honors the First Peoples of this land. We recognize that we stand upon land that carries the footsteps of Cree, Métis, and Blackfoot, among many other nations who have been here for thousands of years. Therefore, Strathcona County has an inherent responsibility to foster healthier relationships with First Peoples and further the calls to action as outlined by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Welcome to Season 2 of You Belong Here, where we're focused on helping you connect with and learn more about support and resources in Strathcona County. I'm your host, Doneka Simmons, and today we are excited to dive into the topic of basic needs and food insecurity. With our guests, Tracey Avitia, Solutions Navigation Supervisor at Family and Community Services, and Tracey Sisa, Co-Chair of the Strathcona County Food Bank. And it's wonderful that we have this opportunity to come together and talk about such an important topic. This topic, as we know, is very multifaceted and has different components to it. Overall, it's an important topic because we do know that a person's sense of happiness, self-worth, and respect is all wrapped up in how we are able to take care of ourselves and our families and the people that we love. And when that is compromised, it really does have an effect on how we engage with others. And so it's very important to talk about this with our listeners and also to delve into some of the resources that are available in Strathcona County to support people. We are a community that is very generous and giving, and we want our listeners to know what's available. So it is a pleasure to have you both here today and to be able to listen to what you are able to share with our listeners. Thank you. All right. So shall we dive in?
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. So for our conversation and for our listeners, I just kind of want to set the stage for when we talk about basic needs and food insecurity, what do we actually mean? Generally speaking, when we think about the idea of food insecurity, it might mean something like a household has inadequate or insecure access to food due to primarily financial circumstances. And so that's generally what we're talking about when we talk about food insecurity. Some examples that come to my mind when I think about food insecurity would be things like if I'm worried about not having enough money to buy food, if I am struggling to find good quality food, or if there is not enough food. So what that might look like is I'm choosing to have one meal a day versus 3 meals a day. So there's not enough food. The amount of food is compromised. And so we know that not everyone is challenged by food insecurity, but for those that are, it can be challenging to live with that experience. And we want people to know that there are ways that you can access support. So, Tracey, may I start with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's further the conversation. And Tracey, you're co-chair with the Strathcona County Food Bank. And just curious in terms of what you might be seeing in terms of accessing the food bank in Strathcona County.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. Anytime we have the opportunity to talk about the food bank and our services and increase awareness, we think it's an important occasion, an important opportunity. Since 2021, our numbers have doubled. And so this year we are projected to serve over 28,000 visits, which equates to about 8,000 people in Strathcona County. And 40% of those are youth and teens. Again, not a number that we're proud of, but it's just basic facts, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And certainly, and I'm sure you're familiar as well, the Food Bank of Canada put out a report in March of this year, and certainly is reflective of what you're sharing, that the number of people accessing the food bank is the highest it's ever been in history. And
Absolutely.
so that's being reflected locally.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Yeah, the hunger count comes out every March from Food Banks Canada, and our numbers are very consistent with those across the country, that they've gone up since 2021. Most food banks have doubled in numbers, and we're seeing more working families, seniors on fixed income. And so as a county, we are trying to address and increase the access. And in doing so, we have added a Thursday evening shift along with our daily morning shift, as well as a Saturday morning shift. And those sort of after hours options are our most popular. And so we're likely going to have to increase another day even, just to address all of those who are food insecure. And again, those numbers across the country, they say 1 in 5 people are food insecure. I liked your definition of what food insecure. I would just add that anytime somebody has to make a choice and they have to give up food, whether that's a meal or a certain type of food, that would be food insecure. And so if you are choosing between food and power for your house, you're food insecure. If you're choosing whether to have a birthday party for your kid or not, that's food insecure.
Thanks for furthering that, Tracey. It helps to have some examples of what that might look like and feel like for people. It helps just kind of normalize and humanize that, it can look different ways for different people. But it generally boils down to just having not enough money to meet your basic needs.
Exactly.
And do things that bring joy to your life.
Yeah, food it's the central part of so much of our life, right? Yeah.
What would you describe in terms of someone coming in and accessing the food bank? What might they be feeling, or what would they see or feel or do when they come in? Just kind of walk us through that a little bit.
Sure. At Strathcona Food Bank, clients can come in once per month. So basically, they would just phone to make an appointment anytime that day or that week. And when they come in, they'll be greeted by a nice, warm, friendly face, and their hamper will include fresh produce and vegetables, fruit, dairy, everything from milk to cheese to yogurt. And then it will also include frozen meat. In addition to the once a month option, they can come in weekly for a hamper top-up, and that would be any sort of excess fruits and vegetables that we might have on hand. And we have a new system called the choice model. And so there's a couple of shelves where clients can go through the shelves and the coolers and pick what they feel they can use, what they need, what really meets their food preferences. And then the last thing that we have are what we're calling emergency or travel packs. And this could be for those who might be unhoused or who just don't have access to a full kitchen. And so more of those emergency needs, things like pop-top cans or some essential toiletry items. Again, just trying to meet clients where they're at.
And so anyone can come in or contact you, and their experience is their experience. And you will meet them at their need and support them in understanding where they're at and matching that with supports to help them. As we know, being informed and knowledgeable about issues really helps kind of ground us in getting an appreciation for topics that are really complex. And on that note as well, Chelsea, and Chelsea, thanks for being here and lending, some insight into this conversation. I want to kind of steer a little bit in the area of affordable housing. Food Banks Canada also alluded to, and they use this phrase of the 1-2 punch of housing and food inflation, hitting those with low income the hardest. And so we all know the effects of inflation. We all know the impact. We can all of us around this table relate to how much our grocery bills go up and how much they have gone up in the past number of years. So we're all impacted by this. And that 1-2 punch of housing and food inflation. And so when you're really struggling with maybe making a decision between, do I pay my rent? Do I buy food? And for a lot of people, they're impacted by both. It's the high cost of housing, whether it be rent, mortgage, coupled with the high cost of food. Strathcona County has engaged in a housing stability survey. I'm just wondering if that would be something you'd like to tell our listeners a little bit about, Chelsea.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to go into that. And I think you're exactly right, Doneka. When I think about basic needs and I think about housing and food, those are just two key things that go hand in hand towards supporting your basic needs in life. And so one of the things we have been looking at is kind of that high cost of living and the lack of housing supply that are challenges we're seeing across Canada, across Alberta, and then also here in Strathcona County as well. And these challenges really can contribute to housing instability in communities. And much like food insecurity, housing insecurity has its own lens where people may be at risk of losing their housing or may be in housing that is unaffordable or even overcrowded or unsafe. And so this past fall, we did do some work on the Housing Stability Survey where we're looking to hear more about experiences that people in our own community were having around housing instability. And we heard from over 600 people in that survey response. And so we are looking forward to kind of digging through some of that data and being able to share some of the results of that survey. And that will help us inform some of the Strathcona County housing affordability strategy. And looking forward to being able to dive into that and look at those early stages of what's happening through that survey and sharing the results and what that might mean in our community.
Thanks, Chelsea. It's wonderful that we have engaged the community in that fashion, and that we're interested in hearing from people's real lived experiences in terms of what they're living. And I'm sure that will be very valuable to inform future steps. So we're kind of grounding this conversation in a little bit of context into definition, what we mean when we talk about basic needs, food insecurity. We've touched a little bit about what Strathcona County is doing locally to address the issue. And we've also broached a little bit about access. And sometimes access can be tricky for people because there may be a stigma. Mm-hmm. It could be a self-perceived stigma. It could be a stigma that someone might be experiencing from others. But nonetheless, there's something there, a barrier that might make it difficult for people to reach out and access. I think one of the messages we probably all agree on that we want our listeners to be mindful of is that there are many people in this community, our services included, that are working hard to reduce that stigma. And so what that might look like in terms of someone reaching out, I just want to give our listeners a little bit of a picture and maybe furthering that conversation of when someone does reach out, what can they expect? And so someone is struggling with food, and Tracey, you've already started to introduce us to what the approach of the food bank. What are some of the resources? Someone walks through that door. What are they going to be met with? What can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Reducing stigma is certainly something that at the food bank we are trying to do. We don't want anybody to feel food insecure. And so when somebody feels like they need some help, we want them to call us. So that would be the first step. They can call us, they can email us, and they will be met with a warm, welcoming voice on the other end of that line. That will just ask them a few basic questions around making sure that they're living in the county, as well as some very basic demographic questions, how many people are in the household, that kind of thing. We try to personalize our hampers as well in terms of what the ages of the kids are, and are there any dietary restrictions on the hampers, and so that we can make sure everybody is getting what they need. We know that if you're given some food that you don't like, that isn't reflective of your personal preferences or even your cultural preferences, that you're not going to eat it, and therefore it's not healthy to begin with. And so we really try to meet those needs, and so we will try and gather that information when they call. And then when a client or a family shows up at the food bank, again, they'll be greeted by somebody who's kind and warm and caring, and we want them to feel welcome and coming in and feeling that it's a safe place. And so there'll be a greeter at the door. And then we have recently added a new model at the food bank. It's more like a shopping model. So some of the grocery stores some of the food banks across the country have gone to that model. They call it a grocery store model, where you can walk down the aisles and choose what you want. And so we have, on top of our standard hamper items, some choice shelves that clients can go through to pick out what they would like, that they feel that they could use, that they would need to meet their personal and cultural and dietary preferences. The other thing that we've done, we recently did a hamper analysis, and we reduced the amount of processed food in our hampers, and we replaced it with fresh. And so all of our hampers come with fresh produce, fruits and vegetables, dairy, so milk, cheese, yogurt, eggs, as well as some frozen meat. So we are very proud to say that our hampers contain 7 days of nutritionally balanced diet, according to the Canada's Food Guide, as well as an additional 7 days of sustenance. So, nobody's going to leave the food bank without some sort of food. And whether, it's a full family or an individual, whether you have full access to a full kitchen, or maybe you walked up and you are taking the bus home, you will leave with some food in a bag. Absolutely. Does that answer your question?
It certainly does, and absolutely. And just even listening to you describe that for our listeners, Tracey, I feel that warmth. And so just listening to you describe it, it's reflective of what someone would experience coming into the food bank. And also just the personalization, just thinking a little bit further of what would bring someone that element of self-respect and regard for what they like to eat, and just being mindful of the composition of the family. Those things don't just happen. They come about because thoughtful people are thinking through these things and putting effort behind ensuring that when someone walks in, that they're going to get that warm welcome and their needs will be met.
Thanks.
And going above and beyond. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, we know that first call is just so difficult and so hard to make that we want to be responsive on the other end. And so, we don't want anybody to feel like they can't come.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's lovely. And so Strathcona County Food Bank is a place where people can access food to meet their dietary needs and a little extra. So that's always lovely. And in our community as well, through Family and Community Services, through our Solutions Navigation Program, we also provide support in helping individuals access supports for their basic needs. And so whether that be food, housing, finances, also along with that, we also know the emotional element of the difficulty in life when you're focused on getting your basic needs met. Sometimes it can be so overwhelming that you might benefit by even talking to someone, just talking to someone about how this is impacting your life on a daily basis, because you want to show up for yourself and the people you care about the best way you can. So Chelsea, at Family and Community Services, what can someone expect when they walk into our office and they want to talk to someone about what they're experiencing and how they can get some help?
Yeah. So I think similar to what Tracey said, it's about having someone that's available, that's going to be that warm and welcoming space for someone to land, to be able to even start to explore what this might mean for them and taking a next step. Sometimes somebody isn't ready to plunge right in, but they are ready to, have a conversation and start to open that door slowly. And then eventually, it's not always easy to ask for help. So sometimes it does take the time. I think sometimes some of these challenges that we're talking about today, although they exist in our community, they might be hidden to some of us. So if this isn't something that you yourself struggle with, you might not notice or recognize always that there may be others in the community that are struggling with food insecurity or housing-related challenges. But we know that they are present in our community. Something else that we hear sometimes is, someone that never thought they would be on this trajectory of having to reach out for support because their life was kind of going in the way that they had, wanted or predicted or made decisions or choices. And then sometimes one or two large life events can really sway things or change things for somebody that they might not have seen coming. And we also hear comments, and I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that sometimes people contribute and give to the food bank at points in their life, and then in their same lifetime, maybe another phase, they might be receiving from or accessing the food bank, and that's okay. And it can go the other way too, right? Where maybe you are receiving first and then you're giving later. There's lots of changes within our lives, and we can't always predict what's going to happen next. And so just wanted to acknowledge that we are all we're all human, and we're all on this journey together. And at different times, we do need to each reach out for support in different ways, and we want all of these services to be available no matter what stage of the life journey you're on.
That's really impactful, Chelsea. Thank you for sharing your thoughts in that way and with those words, because we're all on this life journey, and none of us really know, what's around the corner. Like you say, sometimes because of our choices, sometimes because of life circumstances, and normalizing that even for ourselves sitting around this table just helps us feel more of a sense of connection with each other and with our community, that we truly are all in this together, and reducing those barriers for people and showing up with kindness and just embracing that, we just never know. And for those that may not be experiencing, just to learn and appreciate what is available for people in Strathcona County. Yeah, thank you so much. I also think about, we put together a brochure. Actually, it's a resource guide. It's called Everybody Can, Your Guide to Affordable Services. And for those that might be looking for something they can pick up and have available, this is a guide that walks a person through all of the different resources that someone can access in Strathcona County. These are affordable services. Some of them are free. Some of them you may be able to access by coming in and talking to someone, filling out forms, that kind of thing. Anything ranging from clothing to financial, to food, to health, wellness, recreation, transportation. There's lots of ways that our listeners may not be aware that there are resources available to assist. And so I'd just like to bring attention to this Everybody Can resource guide. We just welcome people to search it on our website or come in and pick up a copy. We're happy to share that information with people. And so as I'm listening to the conversation we are having, it also brings to mind how in our work, we are always we have an ear to the ground, and we are listening to the challenges. We are hearing people's stories, and on the back end, sometimes we are looking at ways that we can help people, further our help to people. And Chelsea, I'm wondering if there is some information you'd like to share with us about a concept called a food asset map. And if that is something that would be helpful for people to know is coming, will be available.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm so privileged to be able to do is not only support individuals when they walk in the door through our solutions navigation team, but also to be able to take a step back and look at what community trends and what is kind of broadly bubbling up. And Tracey and I are both a part of the Food Insecurity Action Table, which is part of the community safety and well-being strategy. And we've been working on a pilot project together and with some other community partners, and developing an asset map that's going to be called Food Finder Strathcona. And it is a place to kind of reduce stigma around food insecurity. But essentially, it'll be an interactive map that will be available on the Strathcona County website. And it's going to feature local food resources across categories such as groceries and markets, food access and support, skills and learning, growing, and food reduce and waste. So it's going to launch summer 2025. So we're still a little ways off, but very exciting to be able to develop a resource that people can go to when they're looking for those kind of different options for food access. So, yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's accessible to anyone, and it's not just, people who are food insecure, because who doesn't want to save money on food, really?
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be those kinds of things. There'll also be resources for like community gardens. Maybe you pick trees, things like that. And so, having those kinds of fresh options available as well is kind of neat. It's an exciting little project.
That's very exciting. So for the three of us around this table, we recognize the value of partnerships, and we engage in partnerships every day. My understanding is that Family and Community Services and the Strathcona County Food Bank have a really lovely partnership. Would one of you like to start and tell us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. I don't mind starting us off on that. So a little while back, Tracey and I were in a conversation. We thought, wouldn't it be nice to have navigators at the food bank sometimes? So we have started to do that and have navigators or solutions navigation staff present at the food bank. Sometimes we know that people that come for food may have other needs and other challenges associated with other parts of their lives as well. So just to be able to be a bit of that bridge and support people further, as well as to help support some of the volunteers that are at the food bank, because there are so many wonderful, caring people over there as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're very excited about that program and that partnership. They come about once a week, and trying to rotate the different shifts that they're attending, or the different days that they're coming, to capture different people. And so it's really exciting. And then on top of that, we've also got our mini pantry that's at the FCS office. And so when any of their clients come to visit, if they are unaware of food bank services, they can show them around, show them here's a little mini pantry, but also you can go visit them on site. So.
Mm-hmm. We find that that's a nice little addition by having some food items at our office for somebody that hasn't accessed the food bank before but might be interested in it. Could be a first step around getting a little bit of food to help you off that day.
That's fantastic. It's amazing what can come about from just a simple conversation between two people, when you talk about something and you don't know where it's going to go, but an amazing initiative can come out of such a simple conversation.
Yep.
So thank you very much for that partnership. And literally what it speaks to is we are all in this together. So, that partnership speaks to that quite nicely. Tracey, before we finish off the conversation on the topic of food insecurity, I also wanted to give you an opportunity if there are any initiatives that the food bank is proud of, working on, that you'd like to highlight.
One of our really exciting initiatives is what we call the Love Food, Hate Waste program. And this is a partnership that we have with Salisbury Composite High School and the chef there and her students. So when we get food that is just about to turn kind of bad, rotten, brown bananas, soft tomatoes, things like that, we can send it over to them, and Miranda and her students turn it into wonderful food items, things like banana bread or soups and sauces, and it comes back to us, and it goes back to our clients. So it's really a full circle. We get the donations from the grocery stores, we use what we can, things that we can't go back out to the back to sell, and then they come back to us. Things that are really, really bad, we can put out to farmers who can use it for their animals. And then as a last resort, we put things in the compost bin. So we try to keep as much as we can out of the waste landfill, just doing our best.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Thanks.
That's very impressive. Thank you for all the great work that you do. So, Chelsea, Tracey, we have had a conversation this afternoon that hopefully our listeners will take away some messages from. And one of those messages being that don't hesitate to reach out. There are lots of caring people in our community through the resources and supports that we've talked about this afternoon. People with warm hearts, giving hearts that want to support and want to do that in a way that makes you feel welcome, not judged, and know that you are cared about. And so just want to remind our listeners of how important it is to remind yourself of that, the importance of reaching out. And also that you are not alone. I think we want to end this episode, this conversation, on a message of hope. Tracey, do you want to share with us is it your slogan, your vision?
It's our vision.
Your vision.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we want to meet people where they're at. They want to treat them with dignity and respect. The food bank's vision is nourishing community with food and hope. We don't just provide people with food, but we provide them with a sense of hope. And whether that's just a warm and welcome place to come and visit, but also we connect them with other resources if we can, and just provide them that positive sense of well-being.
Wonderful. The conversation doesn't have to stop here. Visit us at strathcona.ca/you belong here to find links to resources. And sign up for our monthly e-newsletter to get alerts about new podcast episodes, local resources, workshops, and events in your inbox. And so that wraps up our conversation for today, and would like to thank Tracey and Chelsea very kindly for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your kindness, your interest in this topic, and for sharing this with our listeners today. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.